Hello, everybody. I'm so thrilled to see you. Welcome to Momentum Boost. I am, of course, your host, Adrienne Gold Davis, and I am so happy that you're joining us today. As you can see, our platform looks a little bit different, and we know that the layout can take a little bit of getting used to, but we are totally confident that soon enough, you're going to find it even easier to navigate. But if you are having any technical problems, just click the little hand icon on the lower right side chat box and just choose the relevant icon. And also, you can ask our guest a question by clicking on that question mark in the lower left hand side of the chat box. But remember, all the questions are visible to everyone here. So if you wanted to ask a question anonymously, you just click the hand icon. So today, I'm thrilled. We're going to be exploring Tel Aviv's thriving art scene. We're going to draw inspiration from every shuk and street corner, and we're going to meet the masters behind the masterpieces. So I am thrilled to welcome Liraz Cohen. She's the founder of Fascinating by Liraz. It's a social enterprise whose mission is to share the story of Israel through the art of fashion and to promote Israeli fashion designers and brands. Her list of achievements is really impressive. She served as Zara's Israel's training and development manager, as well as Duke University's first Israeli program director. She won AIPAC's Ally of the Year award in 2014, and she was also nominated for Duke's Star Advisor Award. Now, currently, Leary lends her expertise to writing fashion-related features for Lady Globes. It's a monthly insert devoted to women that can be found in the Globe's Hebrew language financial newspaper. Welcome.
We're literally at the heart of Tel Aviv. I have behind me Rothschild Boulevard and in front of me Abima Square. And today we're going to introduce you to the different artists, designers, and cool creative people who are making this city as cool as it is. So follow me. Hi everybody, I'm so happy and excited to be here with everyone, and I'm sure you want to be with me in Israel for this tour. But the good advantage of having a virtual tour is actually that today, in the next 25 minutes, we're gonna explore 3 different locations. We're gonna be in Jaffa, in South Tel Aviv, and in Central Tel Aviv. And we're gonna meet different artists who are doing illustration, crochet, and fashion. So the story of Tel Aviv is known now being the hub and the cultural hub of art and everything artistic. It has a cool vibe, it's creative, it's colorful. But the story of Tel Aviv starts in 1909 when it was just established. And the whole idea was to make a new urban city, the first Hebrew city in Israel. And when the first pioneers did that, they were thinking about equivalent cities that were in Europe. So they built open, wide boulevards, they had cafes and theaters and all of that. At the same time, around 1909, that was also the second wave of immigrants to Israel. Now, these people, what they wanted to do is actually to build the land. We had a big mission of building this country. So they went and built the first kibbutz Dgania, and later on other kibbutzim. And at the beginning, they were kind of cynical for the idea of building a Hebrew city before we even have an actual land. But the people in Tel Aviv gave them the answer. They said, the same way that we need you to build the land and to work hard and make all the infrastructure, you need us. You need city kind of life. Now, Tel Aviv, the name Tel Aviv means old and new. Tel is the old and Aviv means spring and new. So this entire tour is gonna circle around this idea between moving between old and new with the artist that we're gonna meet. So the first artist that I wanna introduce you is Amit Shimoni from Hipstery. He's taking iconic old, usually at the beginning it was with old figures, leaders of Israel, and then he transformed them. He make a twist and he make them hipsters. He makes them cool. So take a look at the old meets the new with Amit Shimoni in Hipstery. Okay, so we're here today with Amit Shimoni from Hipstery. Many people know of History and know about these amazing figures and illustrations, but maybe you don't know Amit personally. So hi Amit, so great to see you. How are you doing?
Good, good. And you?
I'm good. It's great to see you in this new studio of yours. Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a very nice place in Yafo Port.
So Amit, I met you the first time around 3 years ago when you were just at the beginning. And even this entire Hipstery brand started from your graduation project in Bezalel, right? And you worked on one of the iconic illustrations, characters. And from then, all of a sudden, you're everywhere on billboards in every other city, really well known. And in a certain point, you're even getting an email from the New York Times.
For me, as a Bezalel graduate student, it was a really big shock.
So tell us a little bit. What you're doing is basically you're taking very iconic, well-known characters and you're making them hipsters, right? So what is even being an hipster and why did you think about that idea?
Yeah, so for me the project is not about the leaders. It's about us. The paradox of the hipster, like every guy or girl in the city always want to be the most new and the most avant-garde, and eventually we all do the same. We all act like a kind of a herd. And for me, this paradox symbolized our generation. And if I take those leaders, people of great ideology, and take them to the level of everyday man, it creates this moment that makes you smile, but also make you think.
Yeah, and reflect.
Yeah.
So, Amit, what was the first character that you created and made hipster?
So the first one was the first one of Israel, David Ben Gurion.
First prime minister.
Yeah, the first prime minister of Israel. For me, like, is the most iconic illustration in this project. Also, the colors, the yellow and pink color, the poppy colors.
Right.
And also to take this person from this khaki uniform and to dress him like in a pineapple shirt, to take him to these days to sitting on a beach and drink something. This is for me the moment that I try to create in this project.
That's amazing. He was a pioneer and you're a pioneer also. Do you see one of the iconic characters or personas that you want to illustrate and you immediately know how they will look like as hipsters, or it takes you more time for the process?
No, sometimes it takes about a month.
Wow.
Yeah, I start with research. I read a lot and see a lot of videos about this person.
Wow.
And then I just start, and sometimes it goes fluently in a few days, and sometimes I go tens of times to an illustration to change it until I feel that it's perfect. I think that in the process I find a lot of details that I want to put, and I try to find the essence of the character.
Right. That's beautiful. Maybe now let's go to see how it is being done in your own computer. Let's see it. So let's see where all the magic happens. Amit.
So right now I'm working on a Marie Curie eyeliner. Yeah.
That's super cool.
You want to try?
Oh, yeah, sure. That's really cool. I'll make it even thicker.
Yeah.
Let's see how it goes. I don't know if it's our style.
Let's check.
Nice.
Yeah, not bad.
I think she likes it. So you literally think of every little detail. Wow.
Yeah, so the earring and tattoos and necklace and logos and everything should be in the right place.
That's amazing, isn't it? So now we're gonna go to one last stop with Amit. We're gonna see one of the illustrations that he made for Tel Aviv. So since we're in a tour of everything artistic in Tel Aviv, I want to conclude our visit with Hipstery and with Amit with this illustration of Allenby Street. Maybe you already walked in this street before. Amit, tell us a little bit about it.
So this is Allenby Road, like Abbey Road, but Allenby. You can see here Herzl, Ben Gurion, Golda, and Moshe Dayan. And it's all happened in Tel Aviv. You can see Migdal Shalom building, one of the most iconic building in Tel Aviv. And the blue and white parking spot that you can't find in Tel Aviv. So
Yeah, this illustration is like very optimistic. It's kind of like bring the old and the new all together to tell a story about Tel Aviv. There is kind of like the old car over here, but then the taxis, and it looks, you know, like with the buildings and everything. So I think you really managed to capture the essence of Tel Aviv in this illustration.
Yeah, and I try to still have the saturation of hipstery into this illustration.
Are you planning to do any other illustration of Tel Aviv?
For sure, yeah, why not?
Okay.
It's my biggest inspiration, I think.
Yeah, that's amazing, amazing. So we'll see what is next for Amit Shimoni and Hipstery. What are the next images and characters that he's gonna illustrate, and which other parts of Tel Aviv is going to illustrate as well. So let's move to our next place. Amit is wonderful, isn't he? And I think it's so amazing that this whole hipstery project started as a graduation project, and now it's his life's project. Now our next stop is actually, we're gonna move location to Kiryat HaMelacha, South Tel Aviv. And actually this area in the 60s, there were a ton of workshops there, garages. It's like the places that you don't wanna visit, you don't wanna go to. It's very close to the public central bus station. If you've been there, you know what I mean. But in the recent years, we see this place bloom again. We see graffitis, galleries, studios of designers. It's really becoming a very artistic kind of a place. Our next place is a place that's not only sits there, but makes a dialogue with the place itself. The people, the location, and the art are all in one dialogue. Let's see Cucinetta. So we're here in Cucinetta, this beautiful place and this beautiful organization has an amazing, inspiring story. We have with us Lindsay, who is the studio manager and also the psychosocial project manager. Yes. Did I make it correct? Yes, yes. Hi, Lindsay. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting us here.
No, thank you for coming and visiting.
So maybe first, for the people who don't know what Cucinetta is even all about, can you maybe tell us a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So Cucinate started in 2011 with Sister Aziza, who I don't think you've met, and Didi, who you have. So in 2011, they started Cucinate, which is a psychosocial project for women. So not only can they come and feel like they are part of a community and part of a collective with other women like themselves and have a place and an opportunity to feel like they're safe and comforted, they also have the opportunity to make an income by crocheting the baskets that we have, amazing. Purses. They have begun to sew dolls and books. So we keep expanding on products, but this is how they make an income and it helps them to survive.
And the women are asylum seekers?
They're all asylum seekers, mostly from Eritrea, also from Sudan and some other African countries. We have a few women from Nigeria, Sierra Leone, but mostly from Eritrea. They're all asylum seekers who came mostly in the early 2000s, crossed through the Sinai, and they ended up in Israel and they found us. So we are a collective of now over 300 women.
Lindsay, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the asylum seekers in numbers here in Israel.
Yeah,
what are we talking about?
So there are over 57,000 asylum seekers in Israel.
57,000?
Yes.
Wow.
About 50% of them are from Eritrea, 25% from Sudan, and 25% mixed from all over.
So what's kind of like the support that you're providing them? So obviously you give them job,
Yes.
right? But besides that, you in your role, I think you're kind of deal a lot with the mental part
Yes.
that the women are being through with their journey to be in Israel and with the unstable situation here when you don't have the status. So can you maybe elaborate on that?
Definitely a big part of our organization, what we do here is, as you can see, everything's decorated in African fabrics,
Right.
and we try to make them feel like they're at home, like they have a community outside of the larger Israeli community that's their own, that even though they had to leave, they can find it here and feel safe and comfortable. And while they're sitting in and crocheting the baskets, it brings them back to where their homes are and to their families, and it also helps them to not relive their trauma, but to process their trauma in a different way while they're sitting and crocheting. So a lot of what we do is about that and about letting them to free their thoughts, because the African culture is very different from our culture where we sit and we talk. A lot of African culture is not rooted in talking. It's rooted in keeping it inside and not telling other people your problems. So for them to be able to sit and crochet, even if they're not speaking about their problems, it is still helping them.
It's kind of a meditation,
Exactly.
kind of a process that you're
Yes.
maybe processing everything that you've been through and your
Exactly.
thoughts and feelings.
Yes, when we started the doll project, it also helped. I mean, seeing a doll in the own skin color of our women, and we also have different skin colors. I don't know if we have any right here, but we have lighter versions, darker versions.
The dress.
The African dresses. So it really allows them also to connect to their roots and to show their children where they come from, and allow their children to play with dolls that look like them and dress like their family and everything. So it's beautiful.
That's amazing. Speaking about what cucineta is, there is a meaning to the word, right?
Yes. So cucinate in Tigrinya, which is the language spoken in Eritrea, means to crochet.
Makes sense.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Not much explanation needed.
So maybe now we can see a little bit of the creative process of crocheting.
Definitely. So you can actually take a walk around the studio.
see.
There are women working everywhere.
Tell us what we see here.
So in here we have a doll workshop. So what happens is they take all of the bodies of the dolls that they've sewn already and put together.
Right.
They cut from the fabric. They then sew the bodies together, and they fill it with this white stuffing called acrylone. They then sew the body back together. They sew on the eyes, the mouth. They sew the dresses. You can also see one of our women right here is braiding the black hair that will then be sewed on. So for the girl dolls, it's a longer hair. For the boy dolls, we have a shorter one. We also have some with head coverings, some African head coverings.
So you're really thinking about all the details for the little kids, or for the grown-ups to feel attached to the doll.
And the ideas come from our women, so it's all things that they've seen that they want to create. So we actually have a couple women working on a different style doll right now, and we're going to see how that goes. But
how much time does it take to make one doll, would you say?
About 3 hours for one doll.
Okay.
Someone knows a little faster, maybe 2 hours.
Maybe 2 hours for the faster
Yes,
ones.
exactly.
Okay. And what about the baskets that we see?
So in terms of time, varies completely. The smaller ones, some of our women, it'll take 20 minutes maybe, and our larger ones can take hours, days. We make large poofs, so they're about this size, and they have a covering.
Wow.
And those can take days, many days.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it just
So there's
depends.
a lot of work to it.
Definitely lots of work. Always
Wow.
lots of work.
So what we see here, this old place, there's a lot of work that
Yes,
were
and this is only
put
some of
into
what you're
everything.
seeing. Yes.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much,
Of course,
Lindsay, for
thank
taking
you.
us to a little tour here in
Thank
Cucineta.
you.
We're moving to our next place. Thank you. This is absolutely incredible how art can be a tool to make a change, to really empower women and to do good in the world. And I love seeing different artists and designers doing that thing. Now, from illustration and crochet, we're moving to fashion. So even in the early days of Israel, many people were already thinking about fashion and how it should be, because fashion is a way for us to convey a message of who we are based on our clothes. And by defining who we are as Israelis, we can convey a message to the rest of the world about our culture and the different identities that live inside Israel. So our next brand, Ata, is a kind of a mix, because in the old days, it was more of the kibbutz style, but today it's in the center of Tel Aviv and represents the new. So let's see Ata and the transformation that it has in the last couple of years. Okay, so we're in one of my favorite Israeli fashion brands, Ata. Ata means arigei Totzeret Artzenu, the fabrics that were made in Israel. And it was actually one of the first textile companies in Israel, established in 1934, so way before the establishment of the country itself. And one of the cool things about this place is that in a way it puts all the essence of being pioneers working the land in Israel of the old days. So when the company started, actually, it was during the British Mandate. And at that time, they were making tents, they were making uniform for the British soldiers. And later on, they evolved. It was the brand for everyone in Israel. And one of their biggest presenters was not Bar Refaeli, but David Ben Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, who wore very proudly their clothes. The signature item of Ata is the bucket hat. So maybe you all know that bucket hat, but it was really becoming iconic to the point that 3 years ago, at the MoMA Museum in New York, there was a huge exhibition about all the iconic items from around the world. And one of the chosen one from Israel was Ata's bucket hat. So you can buy it here as well. Now, what's cool about that brand is that they were really known for the quality of their clothes, and it was really a brand that was exist everywhere. The brand was shut down, and then a few years ago, it reopened. But when it reopened, it adds kind of a modern twist to it. Now it's more of a brand for the hipsters in Tel Aviv, and Tel Aviv only. So let's see some of the different items. So over here, I have a beautiful dress of Ata. The color is what I wanted to tell you about, because this color called Ata blue. So the same way that you have the Tiffany's blue, Ata has their own signature blue that everyone were wearing. And that was the color of the working class. So many of the working class in Israel wore it, and to the point that now when people are wearing the blue, it's kind of also the heritage of what even in the past. Another cool thing that Ata is doing is always collaborating with young designers and artists and different brands. The last collaboration is with Yael Bartna. They've made these t-shirts, What If Women Rule the World? What if? One thing that I love about Ata is that they really care about and respect their legacy. So over here, Yael Schenberg, who is the head designer of Ata, created this beautiful inspiration board. It tells the story of Ata from the beginning with different quotes and different ideas, and you can really see the different ways that she's thinking and the process of creation when you're creating the modern Ata based on the fabrics, based on the colors of the old Ata as well. So super cool. So now I'm sure you want to see how different items look. So I'm going to do the job for you because you can't be here right now with me. I'm going to try on some few clothes. So come with me. So as you saw, David Ben Gurion, the first prime minister of Israel, had a lot of inspiration. A lot of artists are taking inspiration from him as his iconic father of Israel. Now, I think that the cool thing about all the places that we just visited is to see how they're culturally diverse they are. It doesn't matter if you're a minority or you're part of the mainstream, where you came from. Everyone is belong in Tel Aviv and in Israel. Everyone has their own space to create and to make their own type of art. And I think that's what's beautiful and make us so unique in the space. We're innovative, we're creative, and we let everyone have their own voice. So I hope that you'll be able to join me for a real tour once all this craziness will end. But right now, I want to over it to Adrienne for more questions from you. I already saw that you have a bunch of questions, so I can't wait to answer them all.
Let me ask you a question. I love the hipstery stuff. In fact, I have a real thing for the Queen. But I wonder, to your knowledge, is anyone ever offended by their characterization in those portraits? Does anyone ever ask to see them? Do any world leaders, have they ever reached out to him and talked about it? Do you know?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know of anyone who got offended by that. Actually, I do know, and Amit mentioned it briefly in the video, that it was asked by the New York Times to make an illustration. That illustration was of Hillary Clinton prior to the presidency run, and he made their illustration. He never heard from her. He still hoped to get an answer if she likes it or not. But no, I think that the people that saw it really liked it, and the entire feedback from the audience, people just love that idea.
Oh, it's my favorite. Now, I had that bucket hat when I was a little girl before I was in Israel for the first time. It used to be white, or you had a navy one. Ata blue, I guess it was. But I've noticed that in fashion around the world now, the bucket hat, even the big European designers are making them. And was it re-inspired by them? I find it fascinating, this whole return, and that's a hipster thing, to return to your working class roots and to rock those working class looks. So I see that Israel is like, it's creating a momentum unto itself. What do you think is the most powerful message that comes out of Israel in terms of style and art and fashion? What do you think encapsulates the spirit of Israel from an aesthetic point of view?
Yeah, I think you're really on point here with the idea of embracing our past. For a long time, we were still trying to define ourselves. And also, we're a really young country. So we're still like kind of in this journey of understanding and defining what Israeli art is, what Israeli fashion is all about. But now what I see mostly with the designers is that many of them are embracing our heritage. And it can be way back to the biblical times, but also for their grandparents who came from different countries to Israel, and now they're embracing their Yemen roots or their Moroccan roots or their Russian roots or whatever that is. And I think that's the whole thing that is unique about us. It's the melting pot and creating something that it's a melting pot of everything, but make it simple. It's beautiful, but simple.
You're absolutely right. It's very much like Israeli food, right? It's like a smorgasbord of a million different countries with a special, special flavor. I loved it. And one last question about the crocheting women. You said that these were new immigrants or people who are coming to find a new life. Are they paid like a living wage? And does the money that they earn come out of the sales of those products? Can we order them online?
Yes, so the whole idea is to really empower these women. As you heard in the video, they are getting paid for it. They're getting a lot of support mentally also, not just economically. And the whole idea for them is that because they're asylum seekers, is to help them find a country that will be able to accept them and to take them. And they have a lot of successful stories coming from Cucinetta. So that's amazing to see how this organization is working and helping them and supporting them while they're in this kind of like waiting status.
And one last question. Do you find that this influx of immigration or of asylum seeking from Africa is also impacting art and fashion in terms of outside of that small community? Are you seeing African inspired fabrications and so on in Israel?
Yes, completely. So the interesting thing that's happening is that not only the mainstream influence the minorities in Israel or the subgroups in Israel, but really it's kind of an ongoing dialogue with everything. So African patterns for sure, you see it on swimwear, you can see it in different art galleries, you can really see that idea coming. But really it's all a mix. So when you're walking down the street and you see different people, it's like with food, like you said, the different flavors, but the best thing is to make it as a whole, to make something that it's just Israeli.
You made me yearn so badly. You made my credit card yearn for that little dress inspired by that army look. I love that little dress. I like the green jacket too. I want the dress. It looked great on you. You should go out and get it.
Thanks.
You are fantastic. I enjoyed that so, so much. It almost was as good as being there. Not quite, but almost. I miss Israel. And you helped make me feel like I was back home for a little while. My credit card.
I'm so happy. Thank you so much, Adrienne.
Thank you.
My
You're
credit
fantastic.
card doesn't like it either.
It was a pleasure to listen to you, honestly. Oh, Liraz, thank you so much for sharing your time and your thoughts with us today. It really was a true pleasure.